Let's face it, being a woman is hard, but being a woman is also easy. You can't be both. Is it hard or easy? But why not both? The struggle today is if a woman can keep her femininity intact, no matter what the military throws at her face, figuratively and literally, undermining and scrutinizing her womanhood, while at the same time, messing up her makeup. If a woman in the military can't post pictures of herself and her desirability in a camouflage tank top and underwear, off duty, and represent like the queen she is on duty in a uniform perfectly tailored to all of her curves, what point is there to being in the military and having a social media presence? You, a woman, a female, voluntarily and deliberately chose to join a field where the roles of political leadership, social privilege, and moral authority have historically been dominated and fulfilled by the majority of men. And you complain that it is too hard and it is unfair? Who would have thunk it? As a woman who spent 6 long years in the military, I've experienced a little bit of everything. And the worst of my experiences occurred between 2013 and 2015, when at one time I was the only female in my group. All I ever hear is how females in the military complain because they're expected to lift, carry, and hold as much as their male counterparts. But you see, I never complained. And in some way, my awkward quietness made me even more disliked among the group. Whenever I struggled through a bout of not being fast, loud, or strong enough, I'd always struggle in silence. But you can bet that I'd accomplish whatever tasks were expected of me. Because at one time I wanted so desperately to be liked and accepted, despite dying on the inside. I never asked for help, and mostly kept to myself. And when I was verbally teased or harassed, I never expected anyone to come to my rescue. Most everyone pitied me, and most everyone also pretended like nothing was happening at all. Thinking back on it, would I have done it any differently than my peers had I seen someone in the same situation as I was? And honestly, wanting to be rescued is a fantasy, a sad fantasy, in and of itself. For crying out loud, the men who taught and trained me at BMT treated me with more dignity and respect, or just overall better, than the men at my first base. But that could have been because of the ongoing string of sexual assault allegations at the time. So, to wrap things up, I was discriminated against because of my gender, among other things. But, hear me out, no two people's experiences are the same. And I know this to be true because when I would meet other enlisted women, during the years that were my worst, they seemed to be doing just fine. Granted, they almost always were doing a different job than I was. So do not despair. If you are a woman with intentions of joining a branch of the armed forces, take whatever words of wisdom I say here into consideration. But don't let what I say hinder you, because as they say, times are changing, or so the saying goes. Humans possess an excellent understanding of how to adapt to new, strange, and unfamiliar environments, which increases our odds of survivability, so that we can at least have an idea of how to conquer those external forces that are usually out of our control. This ability to adapt also helps us to manifest that other part of ourselves. And in order to adapt to my new surroundings, I had to summon from a deeper part of myself, a me that I didn't even know existed and has stayed ever since. I've met so many women, all of whom learn to adapt in their own way. There's the woman who uses her looks and natural assets, the woman who uses her masculinity to integrate and conform, the woman I'd call the twin, who creates a hardened exterior of confidence to mask the soft, plushy interior that usually takes all the punches for her and cries when she's too busy. And in a way, we're all that kind of woman. There's also the kind of woman who uses her gender to manipulate and deceive, and when things don't go her way, the world is obviously against her. Just as there are many different kinds of women in the world, there are many different kinds of women in the military. And which woman do you think you'll be? I'm not going to sugarcoat it. There is subjectively and objectively a universal law of attractiveness in military culture that extends to both men and women, and it is a standard that certainly doesn't apply to all of us and certainly doesn't apply to me. The way you look can and will influence some aspects of your military career, just as the way you look can and will influence most, if not all, aspects of your entire life. If you're a woman, it helps to have long hair, high energy, and a youthful appearance. And don't forget a splash of all-American patriotism. Anyone can be sincere, anyone can be outgoing, but not everyone can be skinny or muscular, tall or short, and not everyone has clear skin. I have personally experienced this universal rule of attractiveness, as there have been men, both young and older, who have interacted with me in drastically different ways to that of my more feminine or ethnically different female counterparts. Now, you may feel that I'm exaggerating or misremembering, but I can assure you, spending 6 years in one place, you begin to take notice of everything around you, because there's not much else to do. I can't simply tell you to be yourself, because in the real world, that just isn't enough, as there are things about yourself you might have to change, or qualities that would stand out too much in the military, or not enough. It is, has been, and will always be a professional environment, but so much of it leaves a lot to be desired, just as it proves to be either more than you bargained for, or exactly what you thought it would be. The government, in all of its aspects, is more than we ever will be. So we just have to learn to live with it, because we can't live without it. As a woman in the military, you will meet men and women who are biased against you before they've ever met you. Every single person you meet will want to know everything that occurs in your private life. You will be given attention, even if you don't want it. As a woman, you will be good at some things and worse at others. Some people will be soft with you, as the harsh criticisms and judgments reserved for all people won't always be directed at you, even when they should be. As a woman, there will be times when you have to fight harder to get what you want. And there will be times when you don't have to fight at all because of what you are. Coming to a close, if anything I say enlightened, intrigued, depressed, or even upset you, let me know by leaving a comment down below before you go. And thank you so much for deciding to spend a little bit of your time with me today, and I hope we can meet again sometime soon.